Have you ever been frustrated? Have you ever felt like no matter what you do, things just don't seem like they're clicking together and they just don't seem like they're working for you? Well, let's keep in mind everything's energy. We are energy. Everything around us is energy. And energy moves into different forms. Think about an ice cube. An ice cube is in one form. As it melts, it turns into another form, water. As you heat water, it turns into steam. So we have all these different forms of basically the same thing. They're just different measures of the energy. Well, we too have energy. And I want you to think about a time when maybe you weren't feeling so great. Like maybe something wasn't going right, or you were upset because um, something wasn't turning out the way you wanted it or the way you thought it should. And what happens to the way you feel? We take on a different energy, a feeling of perhaps disappointment, a feeling of I'm putting in all this work and nothing's happening. And so we pull that into our energy. And when we pull that into our energy, then what happens is we feel low and we're on a lower vibration, and that's not a good thing. If you think of a roller coaster, you're going up that hill, you're excited, and then you come down and it just drops off. Well, is that your energy when you're coming down? If you think of your life as the high points at the top of the roller coaster, and then the low points is those really low dips, when you're not feeling good and when things don't seem to be going well. You see, we can't always be at the top of the roller coaster. Life goes up and down. That's part of the laws. The tide goes in and out. The sun goes up and down. We can't change that. We can only work with the laws. And so by the same token, we can't always be at that top of the roller coaster. Sometimes things are going to cause to make us dip. And that's life. The question is, how soon can you shift it around? How quickly, when something doesn't go right, can you shift it so that you're now in the position where you can change your vibration? So let me just share with you what happened to me today. I had a situation, wasn't working well. I went through this very thing. I was not feeling good about what was going on. It was a situation that was more or less out of my control. I could only do what I could do. The rest of it was not in my control, which may be frustrating itself. If you like to be in control and you like to have everything going smoothly, and now you're in a situation where you cannot control it, that alone can be frustrating, right? So anyway, it wasn't going in my control. I knew I needed to do something. I needed to change my vibration. I could feel my energy dropping. I could feel that I wasn't in a good position. Now, I've also become very in tune to my feelings, and I knew that. So we have to become really in tune to ourselves and our bodies and how we're feeling. So I knew I had to change my energy. I had to shift my energy, because otherwise it was going to be a very difficult day, not only just for me, but for everybody I came in contact to. I could feel my energy had lost. So what did I do? I pulled out my favorite book and I started reading it. And again, as I'm sitting there reading it, I can feel my energy shifting. Why? Well, because now I'm looking at the possibilities of what can happen, of going back to what is it that I want. And so often we focus on what we don't want instead of focusing on what we do want. So when we do this, keep in mind, we're all energy, and inside you have infinite potential. You can do whatever it is you want. Now, here's the thing. Chances are you're not going to want to do something that you do not have the talent to do. I remember interviewing this lady one time, and she was blind, and she skied. And I marveled at how she could ski without sight. Like, that just sounds terrifying to me. Like, where's the trees? How do you know you're not going to hit something as you're going down the slopes? And here's the thing. I never had any desire to go skiing. Sure, I'd watch people skiing on TV and I think, wow, it looks pretty cool. And I'd hear about a friend that went skiing, but I have never in my life had a desire to go skiing. I don't think I have the talent to go skiing. So it's not something that's ever been on my bucket list. Now, there might be things on my bucket list that you have no desire to do because I have the talent for it. You don't have the talent for it. It's just, we're all different. You have things that I have no desire for because you have talent and I don't have that talent, like skiing. So we have to look at what do we desire? And then we have to concentrate on those things that we really want to have. Thoughts are powerful energy. What thoughts do you have? Because when you embed those thoughts into your subconscious mind, what you're doing is you're taking and you're impressing it. And the more you impress that thought into your subconscious mind, the more energy and focus you give to figuring it out. And your mind will actually give you ideas. Now, my suggestion is when you get those ideas, write them down. I have a little notebook where I keep those ideas. Sometimes I don't have that notebook with me, so I write in a scrap of paper and I try to keep those scraps of papers in a place where I find them because sometimes that doesn't work for me too well. But write it down because just writing it down embeds it into your mind. Even when you get a really great idea and you think, oh man, that's so great, I'll never forget that. Yes, you will. That's just the way the mind works. So write them down as quickly as you can and then implement them. Don't just write them down, make a list. You see, you have to look at them as source energy or divine intervention communicating with you. And it's telling you what to do. Yesterday, I was sharing this story with a friend of mine, and I kind of forgotten about it. But back when COVID started, I had broken a tooth, and I had to go to the endodontist to get a root canal. And in between getting that root canal and getting a temporary cap put on my tooth, the dentist office shut down. And even though I had an emergency, I could not get into the dentist. So after a couple months of not being able to go to the dentist, I called the endodontist back and I said, can you help me? My dentist office is closed. I still have no, temporary cap in his tooth and yada, yada, yada. So he put a temporary cap on. So that lasted for a little bit. And then it broke too. And then I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? Called my dentist office, said, hey, I've got a real emergency. I'm sorry, we're not seeing any patients. I'm like, I can't wait. And I thought, what am I going to do? So I went to Google some dentists around, and something inside of me, divine, was telling me, call this person. So I picked up the phone, called the office. Not only was that dentist open and seeing patients and taking patients from other dentists who wouldn't open their doors for emergencies, they had an appointment that day. I went in that very day and got my tooth fixed and then eventually into a crown. So sometimes we have to listen to the voice inside of us. And I was telling this friend of mine this other day, and I said, was that not God telling me what to do? Now, you may not believe in God. That was my feeling, that God was sending this message: call this dentist and do it now. I didn't wait until later in the day because they may not have had that appointment still open. Somebody had just canceled and they saw me that day. So then my idea was there and the answer came. And that's what can happen to you too.